My name is Tommy. I have a scar on my right hand that was stabbed 20 years ago. Whenever I look at the old scar, I always remember the happenings while I was so immature. I was a sophomore in a local public high school. My family includes my mom, my brother who is 6 years younger than me, and me. Our dad had died of cancer 3 years before. Since then, my mom has been working multiple part-time jobs to support our family. Given the circumstances, once I got to high school, I delivered newspapers in the morning before heading to school. Then in the evening I worked for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, at the diner my uncle owned. Of course, it was for the sake of helping the household and for the allowance for me and my brother. Also, for the monthly fees for training in the karate dojo once a week. I started karate as early as when I was 3 years old, and I had a black belt. And I've even won some tournaments. So I was a bit of a local celebrity in our small town. One day, as I was working at the diner as usual, a kinda awkward female customer came in. She was a classmate of mine in the middle school, and her name was Elisa. Moreover, we went to the same high school. The only saving grace was that Elisa and I were in different classes. Elisa was a troublesome girl who has been always problematic ever since she was a middle school girl. She dyed her hair pink and wore heavy makeup. Plus, she was decked out in jangling chains and had a rough temper. She was a notorious delinquent girl known all around this area. When Elisa showed up, I sighed to myself, thinking of all the customers that could come in. I really am out of luck today. And to top it all off, there were no other customers around, and I thought I would be able to finish work early and go home. I couldn't welcome Elisa as a customer. So instead of going to her with a wet towel and some cold water while saying, "Welcome, have you decided on your order?" As I usually would, I let my feelings of not wanting to get involved with her show. As I remained silent and stayed in the back of the shop, Elisa shouted. When Elisa showed up, I sighed to myself, thinking of all the customers that could come in. I really am out of luck today. And to top it all off, if she weren't here, I could be able to finish work early and go home. I couldn't welcome Elisa as a customer, so instead of going to her with a wet towel and some cold water while saying, "Welcome, are you ready to order?" But I could not help keeping away from her, so I remained silent and stayed in the back of the shop. Elisa shouted,
"Hey, doesn't this diner welcome its customers? Hey, I need to order."
As I went over reluctantly to take Elisa's order, she said with a brazen attitude,
"A hamburger and a Coke."
Yeah, I prayed as I brought her order. Please finish eating and leave quickly. But such prayers were in vain, as I heard Elisa's voice calling me after she seemed to have finished eating.
"Hey, you, the food here tastes like crap, and it's too expensive. Make it free."
She claimed. I couldn't keep quiet any longer. What? No way. If you don't pay, I'll call the cops. I counted, but that didn't work on Elisa.
What's that wording towards the customer?
She swung a punch at me. I was starting to lose my temper, so I shouted, "Elisa, if you keep this up, I'll hit you." But Elisa didn't seem to be taken aback by my words.
"Oh yeah, sure. If you can, do it."
She retorted. I was well built and known in this area for my karate, so I'd get into it with the delinquents from the local high schools from time to time. I didn't particularly want to fight, but I was the type to meet a challenge if one was thrown my way. So, there was no way I'd be scared of a girl like Elisa, who was all bark and no bite. Despite her being a delinquent, she was still a girl. There was no way I'd lose in a fight, nor did I even want to engage with her. So, I said with as much sarcasm as I could muster, "This is just ridiculous." Perhaps she didn't like my words because the next thing she did was pulling out a knife from her bag. I panicked at this. My goodness, Elisa, calm down. Put the knife down. I tried to pacify her, but she wasn't the type to back down easily. Then Elisa provoked,
"Tommy, are you scared? If so, apologize."
And with that, she stabbed me in the arm. The diner's manager seemed to think it was just a fight between classmates and didn't pay much attention. But when he heard me yell, "Ouch!" he came out from the back of the store. He seemed extremely shocked and his hands were trembling as he tried to call the police and ambulance. But I told the manager, "Don't bother calling," grabbed Elisa by the neck, and walked to the emergency hospital with the knife still stuck in my arm. If I removed the knife from my arm, the blood wouldn't stop, so I tightly wrapped a towel around my arm below the elbow to stop the bleeding. By the time I got to the hospital 30 minutes later, my right arm was turning blue. It was excruciatingly painful, but I was determined not to let Elisa get away and to get consolation money from her. My heart was full of anger. At first, Elisa resisted,
Let me go.
but as she started to realize the seriousness of the situation, she calmed down and quietly followed. As I began to fade in and out of consciousness, Elisa pulled me along to the hospital, crying all the way. We finally arrived, and I was treated by a doctor. Thankfully, because I had been applying pressure to stop the bleeding, there wasn't as much blood as I had expected when the knife was removed. I was relieved. A nurse, finding the situation odd, wanted to report it to the police, but I, not wanting to escalate things, stopped her and continued with the doctor's treatment. The doctor said,
You were stabbed pretty deep. It's impressive you were able to walk all the way here. You lost a good amount of blood too.
and treated me with a laugh. Feeling a bit more relaxed, I joked I got stabbed by this crazy girl here. She's crazy. Doc, can you fix her up too? In response, he just laughed and shrugged off.
Well, that's something.
After the treatment was over, it was time to head home. As soon as we stepped out of the hospital, I immediately asked for Elisa's contact information to claim damages. I was told my life wasn't in danger and that I would regain full mobility after a while, which lifted my spirits. But I couldn't forgive Elisa's self-centered behavior and the fact she had stabbed me. However, looking at Elisa, who usually carried herself with such bravado, now looking down and being quiet, I couldn't find the energy to be angry. And so, we walked part of the way home together. From then on, I would be going to school with the bandage wrapped around my right arm for a while. My classmates would ask me,
What happened?
but all I'd say was, just a little accident, without telling anyone the details. It's not really important, and it's not something to talk about with others. That was my fight. Ever since that day, I found myself noticing Elisa staying nearby more and more. She would not have come to school so often, so I've never seen her like this before. One day on my way home, I saw Lisa standing alone near the school gate. I decided to say hi and went, "Hey." She responded unexpectedly.
What makes you think you can talk to me casually like that?
It reminded me of why she could be so infuriating. Lately, I noticed that Elisa was always alone by herself. Being a troublesome girl, it wasn't surprising that no one wanted to associate with her. However, seeing Elisa always alone made me feel a bit sorry for her. One evening on my way home, as I was about to leave the school gate, I saw Lisa standing alone. She noticed me and approached, which was surprising enough since she has never initiated a conversation. But what surprised me even more was her appearance. She looked completely different from the day before, like a normal high school girl. Even her previously pink hair was dyed back to a normal color. I couldn't help but blurt out, "What's with the getup? It's actually a normal look," but I had expected her to snap back with, "So what? Got a problem?" But Elisa, not only her appearance, but also her reaction, had completely changed.
I'm really sorry about what happened last time. Are you okay since the bandage came off?
These were her unexpected words of concern. I found myself even more puzzled. Her words and demeanor weren't as harsh as they had been before, and she seemed to have become more honest. So much so that I blurted out, "Were you actually a good person all along?" Elisa looked at me for a while, but there was no resentment or hostility in her eyes. She didn't react to my words and simply said,
Don't hesitate to ask if you ever need a hand.
and then walked away. I thought to myself as she reflected on her actions and decided to forget about the consolation money. New Elisa, now appearing more normal, became the talk of the school for a while. I could hear comments like she's unexpectedly cute, but it seemed her previous reputation was so notorious that she still didn't get any friends. She still wasn't showing up at school regularly, but the one change was that she started coming into my classroom after school, striking up conversations with me. This became an almost daily occurrence. When Elisa started coming to my classroom after school and talking about various things, I slowly began to open my heart to her. I couldn't abandon Elisa, who had no friends and seemed to have chosen me as her safe space. The more she opened up to me about herself, her parents, her younger brother who is 6 years younger, and didn't hold anything back, the deeper our connection became. Elisa's father passed away from a brain tumor when she was in 6th grade. Since then, her mother has been working multiple part-time jobs to support Elisa and her younger brother. When I heard about her situation, I was taken aback because it closely mirrored my own family situation. So I began to share things about my own home life with Elisa, something I usually don't talk about. Gradually, Elisa became a significant part of my life. After a few months of living this way, I once told Elisa, "You should attend classes." But when this topic came up, she fell silent and left with her head down. I thought to myself, if she acted like she does with me normally, wouldn't she be able to make friends? Even if she hates school, there's no helping it. The next day, I was called out by a teacher. It turned out to be about Elisa. That teacher was Elisa's homeroom teacher.
That bad girl is likely to repeat a year or drop out if this continues. You seem to be close to her recently. Can you do something about it?
That's what they said. Whether or not to come to school is her decision. And is there anything I can even do? I thought to myself. But I decided all I could do was to communicate my thoughts to Elisa the next time she came to my classroom. After telling Elisa what the teacher had said, I told her, "At first, I thought you were a terrible person, but as we've been talking more recently, I realized you're actually a good person. That's why I want us to graduate together, not to see things in like this." Upon hearing this, Elisa's eyes filled with tears, and I was taken aback.
It's too late to start studying now. I've been going to class a little bit lately, but I don't understand anything. Besides, even when I come to school, I'm alone, and I feel like everyone wishes I wouldn't come.
Elisa, who said this, didn't have any traces of the tough girl she used to be. All that was left was a fragile, ordinary girl. I thought she had changed recently, but maybe Elisa was just putting up a front all along to hide her fragile self. This thought suddenly crossed my mind. Tears poured from Elisa's eyes as if her tear ducts had collapsed, and she was desperately trying not to let out her voice. Seeing her like that, I felt a tightness in my chest. "You're not alone, because I'm here. I don't know if I'll be any good, but I'll teach you what I can. It's not too late. Let's study together. Come to my house after school from tomorrow." I said, but Elisa reacted.
You have a part-time job, don't you? And there's only 1 month left until the advancement exams. There's no way we can make it.
Upon hearing Elisa still worrying about me at this point, I opened up. "I can't work with this arm, so my brother took over my job. You don't have to worry about anything. I said earlier I want to graduate with you, didn't I? If you want to make it up to me for this arm, grant my wish." Elisa, with tears flowing so much she could no longer speak, gave a strong nod. And so, we promised to start our study sessions from the next day. It was the next day in the evening. I invited Elisa to my house on the way back from school. To my surprise, Elisa was quite polite, saying,
Hello. Excuse me for disturbing you.
Upon entering the house, my brother's first words were,
"Mom, Big Bro brought his girlfriend."
Elisa seemed a bit embarrassed by this. My mom came out saying,
There's no way that karate fanatic could get a girlfriend.
but she was surprised when she saw Lisa. "She's not my girlfriend." I retorted, but since my mom seemed worried about something, she told us to study in the living room, not my room. So, we ended up studying under the watchful eyes of my family. Although Lisa's honorific language was a bit haphazard, she was polite and honest, and my mom seemed to have taken a liking to her. My younger brother, who was in upper elementary school, seemed excited and intrigued by the high school girl, and the mood in my home was welcoming. As for the study, Elisa's academic performance was indeed quite bad, as she had feared, but Elisa, learning intensively what I taught her, steadily improved her academic skills, and she was able to barely pass the promotion test in March. So, we were able to move up to the 3rd grade together. However, the habit of studying at my house continued even after that. Now, I started going to Lisa's home too, and had become familiar to her family. I was surprised when I saw the report card from Lisa's elementary school that she showed me at that time. Her grades were at the top of the class, and it seemed like she had even served as the vice president of the student council. This was totally unthinkable for Elisa during her delinquent girl days, but now it made some sense to me. Elisa wasn't stupid, and she had the guts to complete a decision once made. But when something painful happened in her family, and she couldn't find something like karate for me to immerse herself in to distract her mind, she became reckless. That's all it was. She was just protecting herself from negative emotions like loneliness and sadness by misbehaving. With that in mind, I couldn't come to dislike the Elisa from back then. Eventually, by October of our senior year of high school, Elisa's grades had climbed to the 100th position among 400 students in the grade. And so, we were able to graduate from high school together without a hitch. I decided to go on to university, and Elisa decided to go to a junior college. Moreover, since we both commuted from home, our environment didn't change much from high school, and we could still see each other. Also, my mom had taken a real liking to Lisa and started nudging me about her.
Aren't you going to date with that girl yet?
It wasn't because of her nudge, but from around that time, I started to care deeply about Elisa. Having spent a lot of time together, I knew Elisa's unexpectedly human character. She was surprisingly shy and family-oriented, straightforward and hardworking. As I got to know Lisa bit by bit, I found myself increasingly drawn to her. However, having never been in a romantic relationship, let alone having confessed my feelings, I was unsure about what to do and couldn't take any actions. But my love for Elisa was undeniable. After all, in September of my second year at university, I finally managed to convey my feelings to Elisa, dating at a seaside spot in front of a beautiful sunset. Seeing my clumsy, overly desperate confession that almost sounded like a proposal, Elisa laughed a lot, which was a little frustrating, but she said,
Yes, please.
with a happy smile on her face. Seeing Elisa like that, I didn't care about the frustration anymore. Elisa, who had become quite gentle by then, said,
Let's grow old together, become a grandpa and grandma.
and it was so adorable, I found it extremely endearing. 20 years have passed since then. Elisa and I were blessed with 2 children. Our eldest daughter is 16 years old, and our eldest son is 13 years old. Sometimes the kids ask about the scar on my arm. Each time, it takes me back to the past. But, understandably, I can't exactly tell them that their mother once stabbed their father, so I dodged the question. And Elisa, who's listening nearby, always looks down as if she doesn't want to revisit the past, then gives me a wry smile when she sees my face.